Welcome back to My Kill Up Life. My name is Amber, and today we're in the kitchen, and I'm going to be doing my sourdough discard muffin recipe. This is a old recipe that I have printed out here. It has all sorts of stains on it and a bunch of buildup of tape where I've taped it to my cabinet so many times, so I've definitely used this recipe a lot. I printed it back in 2018, if that tells you how long it's been in my life. I'll have the recipe linked below, but I have modified it over the years to what my family likes and what I'm interested in. So the first step is preheating the oven, so that's going. And then the next step is going to be, actually the very first thing they want you to do is put milk on your oats and let them soak. So I have 1 cup of rolled oats, and we're going to put 1 cup of milk on them. It's always useful to check your milk. So 1 cup of milk, 1 cup of oats, and get that soaking. And this is just quick rolled oats, you know, nothing fancy. And I'll give that a little stir. And set that aside. And our next step I'm going to do is mix up my wet ingredients. So wet ingredients will be 1/3 cup of oil. They say canola oil. I had it crossed out saying I was going to do coconut oil, and this is olive oil. So really any liquid oil will do. And I want to scrape it out. Then it's asking for 1/2 cup of sourdough discard, which is what's in this bowl here. You can barely see. So that's the discard I need to use up. That's definitely more than 1/2 cup. I have some other recipes I'm going to try out and test out, and if they're any good, then I'll end up making a video about them. But I did some research on sourdough discard recipes today and found a zucchini bread that looked interesting, and also a everyday sandwich bread. So it's actually a yeasted bread, but you put sourdough discard in it. But I've been looking for a sandwich loaf. I don't know if I would want to make this all the time because it has, you know, the unfermented flours in it. So you're using just plain old white flour from the store. So I don't want that to be my normal everyday thing, but occasionally it might be nice to have in the house, and I'm more than willing to test out the recipe and see if it's good. But for today, we're doing muffins. If I didn't say it, they're oatmeal raisin muffins because my husband's favorite cookies are oatmeal raisin, and so it just is logical. So we're going to do 1 egg, and we want that beaten. And our other liquid ingredient is my addition to the recipe. The recipe doesn't call for it, but I added 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Oh, they also want the raisins and the soaked oats to all go together in the wet. So I'm going to break up my raisins. This is another change to the recipe. And they asked for 1/2 cup of raisins. My family likes raisins, so I doubled it. I just said 1 cup loosely packed raisins. Because, like I said, my family likes the raisins. And so my milk and oats go in. Didn't have a whole lot of time to soak. In reality, they want you to soak get your oats soaking, and then in that time preheat your oven and line your pan and all that sort of thing. But in preparation for the video, I did a lot of those things beforehand. I use silicone liners for my muffin cups. I find I get all my food out of them. I don't lose so much to the wrappers. The one drawback to silicone liners is if you leave them in too long, they'll sweat a lot. Yeah, so you just have to take your food out promptly after cooking it. So moving on to the dry ingredients, we have 1.5 cups of flour. They asked for all-purpose. At the time, I put down spelted and sprouted flour. This is basically a cup of really old whole wheat flour and 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, just using up what we have in the kitchen. If I had thought about it, I could have done this after I ground flour for some sourdough, and then I have extra freshly ground flour to use, but I didn't. So, and I've never been particular and precious about the flours in this. It just work with what you got. So here we have 1/2 cup of brown sugar. So I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to work this in with my hands because I find if I don't, I get large clumps of brown sugar just floating around in the mix, and I don't like that. So I want to incorporate it into my flour. But I've made these muffins on and off over the years. They're always a hit. They don't have like a massively strong sourdough flavor, but I know it's good for our gut, and it's using up what I have in the kitchen, making use of this discard. So the changes I've made to this recipe, like I said, I use any old oil. I've doubled the raisins. I'm not special about the flour I use. I'll use whatever flour I have on hand. And the main additions is 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and then I've added spices. So I have 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 of a teaspoon of cloves, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of nutmeg, just to round out the spiced autumnal flavors in it. So I almost have all of the brown sugar broken up. Still a few more clumps. So this recipe was originally from geniuskitchen.com. But like I said, I've modified it so much over the years. And with my little scooper, I have a muffin scoop. I find that with my muffin tin and my scoop, I tend to get more than all recipes say I'm going to get. So they'll say, oh, you're going to get 12. And like this recipe, I have a note saying it makes 18 muffins. So not a bad thing, getting more food out of it. But it really makes me wonder if muffin tins have changed over the years, and mine is just old and small, and they've gotten larger. But then my silicone liners aren't crazy old, so I don't know. So there's my sugar and flour. So here I have my salt, my cinnamon, my nutmeg, my cloves, and then we're going to do 1.5 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. So all of that stuff's here. I'm going to work that into my dry ingredients. And the reason you do that is just so you don't get big clumps of baking soda and baking powder throughout your mix, and it'll rise better and more evenly. So that looks well combined. So now to incorporate the wet ingredients. And they always talk about with muffins not to overmix them, because if you overmix them, you can develop the gluten and it can lead to a tougher muffin. I don't like having clumps of flour in my stuff, so I mix it enough so I'm confident there's no clumps of flour. So, and away we go. So, if the zucchini bread turns out well, then I'll end up making it again, and you'll know it's decent because I make another video on about it. Same thing with the sandwich bread. Don't know when that'll happen because we don't need tons of this stuff in our life all the time. In fact, with these, I'm considering freezing them and having them for later because we don't need 18 muffins and a loaf of zucchini bread. So these will more than likely be frozen. And now the joy of getting all the raisins out of the whisk. But muffins are nice because they come together quickly and they make a substantial little snack to have on hand. So now we scoop away. I'm excited about the zucchini bread recipe because it's calling for, I want to say 3/4 of a cup of starter, so it'll use up a nice amount. I don't know that my oven's even preheated yet. That's how fast these come together. Okay. Nope. 345. We're still waiting for the oven to preheat to 400. So once it comes to temp, I'll put those in. And it's saying bake for 20 to 25 minutes. My oven tends to be a little bit cooler, so it'll probably err on the side of 25. And then you take them out and let them cool. So I'll bring you back when I have muffins to show you. Okay, the timer has gone off, so we can pull out our muffins. They're golden brown, very springy to the touch, so I say they're done. So we'll pull them out of the tin carefully. The nice thing is things do sweat in the silicone liners, so if you're having trouble getting things out, you can let them sit for a second and they'll self-release. But I have more batter I want to cook, so I'm going to run a knife around the edge to help speed the process along. And I always turn them top side down because the top side is set and formed, whereas the base of the muffin is still squishy and moldable. I've tried cooling them bottom side down, and they get weird divots and lines and wrinkles in them because of the bars, so they do better face side down. So I'm just going to release the rest of these so we can refill our cups and get them going again. I think these are a little bit more cooked than I'd like, so this time I went for 25 minutes, so this next time I'm going to go for the 20 and see what it looks like. Because ovens like to prove us to be liars. I say it runs cool, and today it's running hot. But even a little bit overdone, these are still tasty. They'll just be a little bit drier than they would normally be. In reality, I won't need all of these liners. Okay, so to refill, spatula and scrape the rest of this out. Get the last muffin. So, like my note said, it makes 18. Another thing, I've done this with different milks as well, so you don't have to have, I've used almond milk, I've used cow's milk. It's usually the only 2 milks I have in the house. I don't usually have other kinds of milks, but I do the unsweetened vanilla almond milk, and it works fine with a lot of baking options. It just has a lower fat content than real milk, so it'll just be less rich than a normal recipe. But I've done it with all almond milk. I've even done a mix because I ran out of one milk and had to make up the difference, and it worked out fine. Okay, so those are filled. I can pop them back in the oven. This time I'll go for 20 minutes. Okay, the 20-minute timer's gone off, so let's get the muffins out. Not as brown, kind of funny. The last one I scraped was a little big and puffy. But so those are our discard sourdough discard oatmeal and raisin muffins. And we'll finish this video off when Wes comes home and gives them a taste test. Here we are after dinner. We're gonna have our muffin. We're having a half because we have that zucchini bread to try too.
Tastes really good. Really good use of the sourdough starter leftovers.
You can't taste any sourness in it.
But it's still a good use of it.
Mm-hmm.
Very tasty. Thank you.
Does it remind you of your cookies?
Somewhat. If you try this recipe, let us know what you think, and if you would change anything, we're open to considering anything.
Yep. I've had the recipe for many years and I've made my own adjustments, so feel free. It's a very forgiving recipe. And like I said, I like muffins because they work up so fast. So until next time, we hope you have a wonderful day and feel free to like and subscribe.
See you later.
Bye.